Welcome to yet another video. We're back after quite some time with a little bit of rebranding. However, we're going to try and make this particular seamless animation that loops perfectly. It's more of a disintegration effect, and we're going to talk about all of the mistakes and every single thing and thought process that went through while creating this particular animation. The entire video has been sped up to 2.5 times the speed, but every single trial and error has been put in place. Initially, I started off by trying to create an arrow because this entire animation was made for an animation that dealt with the arrow of time per se. So I knew that I had to create some type of arrow. And the original idea that I had was to create an arrow and have it glow in a way, maybe some sort of glass material with something inside that's glowing. So this is me trying to create the arrow, and we'll come back after we make it. I thought to create the two separate layers, one to be glass and the other to be the object inside, I could just extrude all of the faces and scale it up, or duplicate the object and scale it up such that I'd have a bigger version of the original object and the smaller one would be inside. However, that was a bit tougher than I expected, which made sense due to the way how objects scale, but I thought that I could make the changes as shown to have everything work how I expected it to. So here I tried to create the material where the outer material would be a glass type material and the inside would be some sort of emission. However, the glass material wasn't coming out as I was expecting it to, and I couldn't figure out why exactly that was the case. So I thought I'd test it out with a cube and see if I was able to get all of the refractions and everything in. After adjusting a few of the settings, I was able to see Suzanne through the cube, so I knew that what I was aiming for was working. However, the problem was that even if I tried making Suzanne emissive, it just wasn't glowing through the glass in Eevee. So I thought maybe I would just have to use cycles and get it over with. However, even in cycles, it didn't turn out too nice, and even then it just wasn't worth the performance difference between Eevee and Cycle. So in Eevee, I made a few tweaks in the settings and found something that was working. So I was able to see a glowing Suzanne through the cube. So I implemented the exact same thing with the arrow. However, due to the way refraction works, it was looking pretty much like trash. It did not look like a glowing arrow within a glass arrow and all the different things that I thought it would look like. So after tweaking it around a bit and seeing if at all cycles could save me, I decided to cancel that particular option. I then went on to open a new blend file altogether and decide to make the disintegration looping effect instead of the glass with an object inside it. So here I just modeled a far more basic arrow because I knew that I would use geometry nodes, and making it so complicated with particles, it wouldn't make too much of a difference. So I just went ahead, modeled a very basic arrow, and then went on over to geometry nodes to see if I could create the disintegration effect. As usual, I just distributed a bunch of points onto the faces of the geometry and then added in an object to act as the points or the mesh. And then I scaled the mesh, and the last thing was to transform the position of each object separately so that it would be random. So I was thinking of different ways by which I could possibly distribute the points or transform them randomly, and that's why I thought transform node with noise would work. But that didn't seem to give the output that I was expecting, so I had to look through the different options that were available and think about which one might work. And yeah, with a bit of trial and error, I saw that maybe set position would work, so I tried it out. I think although these videos have their own benefits, the entire fact that the entire creative process, including all of the mistakes, the ideas, are being seen, I think the channel itself would benefit a lot more with tutorials and more conceptual videos that explain exactly what is happening. So maybe in the future, I'll be making a lot more tutorials and explaining step by step how to create the objects rather than me just showing the final image and the entire process. Again, I keep asking for people to let me know which one would be more preferred, but not enough people actually watch the videos, so I don't think it matters. But eventually, hopefully, people will start watching the videos, and yeah, then we'll see which one benefits people more, and we will continue with that itself. Here, I figured out what works, and I was able to distribute the points. So now the next thing was to make it perfectly looping and create the camera and all of those different settings to make the animation perfect. As usual, I decided to use an empty and parent the camera to the empty and have the empty have an entire rotation so that we could figure out, or at least so that we could go in a perfect circle and have that perfect loop after rendering the animation. This was really taking quite a bit of performance from my laptop, so it was lagging quite a bit, but I knew I had to manage with it anyway, so I just went ahead. Instead of coloring the particles themselves, I decided to just use two colored lights to give color to the particles, one green and one blue, to contrast it out a bit. And yeah, that is what I decided to go with even at the end. After the last few settings and making sure everything was working, the only thing left to do was to render out the entire animation after saving it. And rendering created this as the final image. Seamless, perfect loop of multiple particles forming an arrow and then disintegrating back into randomness. Hopefully there was something to learn from the tutorial or from this video. If you want tutorials, let me know, and till then, stay creative and see you in the next one.